There we go. Cloud recording. All right. So today we're talking about Nebula. Nebula is a cloud-based offering that's tied to certain specific hardware options that we have here at Zyxel to allow you to cloud manage multiple customers, multiple locations, and all of your devices through a single pane of glass. So Nebula offers centralized and unified control. All your management is done through a web interface in the cloud. So anywhere you've got web access, you have access to all of your customers and all of their sites. It covers a bunch of our different products. So we've got security gateways, switches, and access points. There's no software or hardware needed, so nothing that needs to be installed on any device, no cloud keys, nothing like that. Nebula itself is free for the life of the product, and we do have some paid upgrades to it, which give you some additional features if you need those, and we'll talk about those way here towards the end. Probably one of the nicest things with Nebula is that basically installation itself is just a simple, in most cases, of simply plugging in the device. So it's got power and DHCP network access. And from there, it will automatically reach out to the cloud and get registered with your customer's organization and site. So you can ship the stuff to your customer to have them plug in. You can send someone on site who isn't trained in how to do configuration, because you won't need to do that. And we'll talk a little bit more about that as we go on. So what I'm going to show you here on this slide is sort of all the things that go into deploying and setting up a network. Anything that's colored in gray is an area where Nebula will save you time, money, or both. So you're going to start off, you're going to purchase your equipment, your licenses, maintenance contracts, et cetera, et cetera. I should note we don't sell service contracts. Then you're going to install the equipment. So here we save things for you because the equipment generally does not need to be configured or upgraded or anything like that manually. The one exception is some of our Nebula Flex equipment that's been floating around in distribution. It is possible you may get an older piece of hardware that needs to have a firmware update done to it. But you can check that before you send it out to customer site and do that before you get it out there. You don't need to worry about setting up your monitoring equipment or software. That is done automatically with Nebula Cloud. You don't need to worry about setting up port forwarding or VPNs to get remote access to your client. Again, that's all handled automatically through Nebula. Nebula serves as your monitoring platform. It gives you a quick dashboard where you can see what's going on. You can view your logs. You can have it send out automated email alerts, etc. Depending on the version of Nebula you're going with, whether it's the free or it's the Pro Pack, you get from a week to a year's worth of logged information automatically stored in the cloud for you. Pushing out configuration changes is done very easily through the cloud. Same goes for firmware updates and things like that. So we'll start breaking down some of this stuff a little bit more in depth here on the Nebula offering. Paul is asking, is this being recorded? The answer is yes, it is being recorded. It should be available on our website. If you're having trouble finding it, just reach out to your salesperson. They can do that for you so you can watch it. We can also send you a copy of the PowerPoint slides. And if you've got a team that you'd like to train, you can always work that out with your salesperson to have a dedicated webinar training just for your team. It's maybe a little bit more interactive than our traditional public webinars. Okay, back onto the slides. So again, setup without unboxing. Basically, all you need to do with the Nebula device is scan the QR code. The QR code is generally going to be found on the outside of the box. It's going to be found on the belly label of the product itself. Or if you log into the GUI for the device, we'll show the QR code on your screen. So you can use our Nebula app, scan that, and assign it to your customer, and that's pretty much about it. So you can have the equipment shipped to your office, you can scan it all in, assign it to your customer, and then you can forward it on without even needing to open the box. You can also add devices by manually typing in serial numbers and MAC addresses or uploading a spreadsheet that contains that information. So in general, a Nebula network is going to be up and running in minutes for you. Setting up a new network is pretty easy. You just go into the web interface, create a new customer, new site. It will give you the option to clone additional or existing customers. So, you know, for a lot of installations, 90% of the configuration is the same as every other one of your customers. So you can clone an existing customer or an existing site, and then just go in and tweak and change the few things that need to be changed there. So again, I mentioned this earlier, you don't need to purchase any additional software. Management and monitoring is done through the cloud generally, through our Nebula interface. There's no cloud keys, there's nothing that needs to be loaded up, virtual machines, anything like that. So management is done primarily going to be through a web interface. So anywhere you've got a computer with internet access, you can log in to view what's going on, monitor things, make changes. We do have our Nebula app for Apple devices, iOS, and Android. And that gives you sort of a snapshot to see what's going on at your customer locations, although most configuration will need to be done through a web browser. Yeah, I guess I got a little bit ahead of myself there about the mobile app. So Nebula has built-in captive portal guest access functionality. You do not need to have an entire Nebula solution to do this. If you just have our access points, they have built-in captive portal on the access points itself, or we also have this built into the gateway if you want to provide captive portal on more than just your access points. The captive portal is fully customizable. So we can have it do a terms of service page where they have to agree to get onto the network. We can have them log in with a username and password. We can have them register for an account themselves and create their own username and password before they get internet access. We can point them to your own hosted login page where you can gather more information than what we normally do ourselves with Nebula. We have the ability to do Facebook login. So a lot of flexibility there. The captive portal page itself is fully customizable. We've got sort of what you see is what you can get sort of editor that lets you make some basic changes to the default template, or you can download all of the HTML and CSS files, edit them to your heart's content, and then re-upload them to Nebula if you need some really specific customization, or as I mentioned before, you can host it yourself on an external server. So lots of different ways to do guest access and captive portals. So when it comes to wireless, in addition to the captive portal, most of our access points support something called Smart Mesh. So if an access point gets power, but it doesn't have an Ethernet connection, it will automatically look for other Nebula access points that do have an Ethernet connection. We can automatically form a mesh network to get them online. This is a feature you can turn on and off in GUI, although we do have sort of an emergency mode where it will automatically sort of flip over to this if it feels it needs to. Of course, we've got full-on WPA2 security, including the ability to use 802.1x authentication, so each user has their own unique username and password instead of your entire company sharing one password. Real pain if you fire an employee on bad terms and have to then change the password and update everyone on that. And we've got a number of features in there to help us with roaming and load balancing. We support 802.1r, K, V, we've also got our own for older devices that don't support those standards. We've got other ways of doing load balancing and client optimization. So talking a little bit about our switches here and some of the other just general features. We have intelligent power over Ethernet. If you've been selling our switches before, you're kind of familiar with this, where we sort of monitor the power draw on the devices that are being plugged in and can then allocate power based on actual power draw rather than using the 802.3 AT or AF specifications, which often end up requesting and allocating a lot more power than the device necessarily needs. When you're configuring things like ACLs and VLAN configuration, and some of this other type of stuff that we do, we make sure that when you're applying those rules, they are applied in the correct order so nothing gets dropped off. So if we see that you're doing something that would cause you to lose connectivity, we will stop you from doing that, or we will make sure that the settings are applied in the correct order so nothing goes offline. And then once you've set up your switches, basically you've got the ability to go through a virtual stack, choose ports and configure ports all at the same time just by selecting them regardless of which switch they are physically on. So configuration is pushed out automatically, so you log into the cloud, you make the changes you want to make, save it, and then within generally about 2 minutes, those changes will be pushed out to the devices themselves and applied. So you don't need to go into each individual device to make those changes. So on the VPN side of things, if you're using our NSG gateways, we've made it super, super simple to set up VPN connections between multiple locations. You simply go in, choose what model you want, whether you want like a star topology or hub and spoke, select the site, hit apply, and basically Nebula takes care of everything else on the back end for setting that up and getting it working. So the Nebula interface was specifically designed from the ground up for those of you managing multiple customers and multiple sites under those customers. So for each customer, you create what's called an organization for that customer, and then any individual sites go underneath that. And then everything is visible through the one Nebula interface. You just log in, and you will be presented a list of your customers, and then you can drill down to the individual sites under those customers. So this is showing you that right here. When you log in, you get a display similar to this, where it shows you all of your customers. We call them organizations. It lets you know whether they're using the free Nebula or whether they're using the professional pack or some other licenses. It lets you know the status of those licenses. It gives you a quick snapshot of how many sites they have and how many devices are online or experiencing issues. Once you choose one of your customers, you'll be taken to this view here. As you see, we can, if you've got multiple sites, we can visually represent those on Google Maps as to where they physically are located. And we'll let you then see all of those sites and give you, again, a brief snapshot showing you how many clients are currently online at those sites, site health, number of devices online, etc. Then once you select the site, it takes you to this dashboard here. This dashboard is available in 2 flavors. There is a total dashboard which shows you access point switches in your gateway. And there is another view, which I don't have on here, which is just for access points. We have a lot of customers that are just using Nebula for their access point management. They aren't using Nebula switches and gateways for whatever reason. So we do have a dedicated AP view that's optimized just for viewing access points. As you can see there towards the top of the screen, shows you your customer and their site. Those are pull-down menus, so you can quickly jump between sites or customers without having to back out to the main menu there. And then we give you some brief snapshot of what's going on. How many APs are online, switches, gateways, how many wireless users are currently connected, your PoE usage versus your PoE budget. And then if you're using our Nebula security gateways, over on the right-hand side there, we can break down network bandwidth utilization by individual application. So we know if someone's streaming a lot of YouTube or Hulu or Netflix or BitTorrent or whatever it happens to be, we can show you which applications are eating your bandwidth and which clients are eating your bandwidth. So all of this is free with the Nebula free version. I think we've got a slide later which goes more in depth, but on an unlimited number of customers, on an unlimited number of sites, on an unlimited number of devices. So this is kind of a snapshot here of the products that we offer. So again, Nebula covers switches, access points, and our NSG series security gateways. So Nebula Flex is something we originally launched on our access points, and we have expanded this to several of our different switch lines as well. So Nebula Flex is about dual mode capability. So instead of selling dedicated cloud devices or your traditional standalone network devices, with devices that support Nebula Flex, they can be used in either mode. So you can use the switch as normal, or you can switch it over to be managed via Nebula. If you decide you don't want it to be managed via Nebula anymore, you can switch it back to the standard mode. So you can switch back and forth as many times as you want. Configurations, though, do not carry over between the two modes. So just be aware that when you switch modes, you will need to reconfigure or restore from a backed up configuration. On the AP side of things, we also have something called Nebula Flex Pro. So Nebula Flex Pro is for those access points, and in addition to being standalone or Nebula managed, they are also compatible with our controllers. So it's an AP that can be used in either of those three modes. And then all of our Nebula Flex Pro models automatically include at least 1 year of Pro Pack license bundled out of the box. So setting up a Nebula account is pretty easy. First, you create a Nebula account. You just go to nebula.zyxel.com. It's actually, if you already are selling our security gateways, it is your myzyxel.com account. So you would go ahead and log in with that. If you don't have one, we'll prompt you to create an account. And that is probably the longest part of the setup process in most cases. Once you plug in the device, if it's already got Nebula compatible firmware, it'll automatically download the latest firmware for you. If you're using a Nebula Flex device and you've got one that still has a pre-Nebula firmware on it, you will have to upload the firmware yourself to the Nebula one, but from that point on, everything will be golden. And then you simply register the device in the Nebula cloud to your customer and to their site. It'll automatically download any configuration you've set up for that site and be ready to go. This is just showing here if you're using a Nebula Flex product and you want to switch back to standalone mode, all you do is log into Nebula, unregister your device, remove it from the organization inventory, and it'll automatically reboot itself back into standalone mode. So now we'll talk a little bit about some of the additional options we offer as far as licensing goes. As I talked about before, Nebula itself is free. But we do have this thing called Professional Pack or Pro Pack. So Pro Pack unlocks a number of different features that aren't there in the normal version. So some of the key things that you get there is you have the ability to set up email alerts. So you can set it up to automatically alert you if a certain device goes offline for more than a specified number of minutes. We can have it automatically generate reports on a weekly or monthly basis, and they can be emailed to you or your customer. We increase the logging from a week's worth of logs retained in the cloud to a full year's worth of logs retained in the cloud. Let's see, what other sort of stuff do we have there? We have a topology view where we'll automatically generate a chart showing you which network devices are plugged into which other network devices. We have the ability there with the Pro Pack to do audit logs. So every time one of your admins makes a change to a configuration in a site, it will be recorded who made the change, when they made the change, and what the change was. So again, a lot of tools there to help you troubleshoot things and trace back changes that were made so you can find out why they were done. Again, Pro Pack gives you more granular control on bandwidth. Another feature that the Pro Pack offers here for you is if you're doing IPTV, particularly in a hospitality scenario, we've built in a number of features specifically for doing IPTV. So we've provided more advanced control over IGMP, and we have a report that gives you and tells you which channels are being watched, which users are watching which channels, and we'll also flag things that we notice going on that might be detrimental to the performance of the IPTV, stutters and drop packets and things like that. So we'll actually alert you and say, hey, we noticed this, and we'll even suggest what settings to modify to address those issues. Oh, there's the report right there. So something new we've added, and it's only available on the 3 models that are specified there on the screen. It's a wireless health report. So it gives you a better understanding of what's going on for the wireless devices and will warn you of clients that are having connection issues. So basically we look at retries, how many times do packets have to be sent before they're received. So that'll warn you of overloaded access points, interference, things like that. So that's available on any of our Wave 2 access points. It will also be available on any of our new access points going forward. So another feature here with ProPack is the ability to create configuration templates. So these are templates that you set up and configure, and then you can apply them across multiple sites. So for instance, you need to change a Wi-Fi password across 10 or 15 different sites that a customer has. You change it once, select the settings that need to be changed, and then hit apply. That's probably a bad example. I think right now the configuration templates are just on common switch features. I believe we are getting AP functionality a little bit later this year. So that will continue to be enhanced and more features will be added to the configuration templates. I was talking about before the ability to clone existing sites or customers. I believe with the ProPack you also get the ability to clone individual switches, and it gives you the ability to back up and restore switch configurations. ProPack also gives you Facebook Wi-Fi. So when using the captive portal, we have something even on the free version, it's called Facebook Login, where you can have the user log in with their Facebook information. Facebook Wi-Fi is a different offering that's provided by Facebook for businesses. And it lets you basically prompt them or try to force the user to like and share or check in at your business before getting access to the internet. So instead of logging in with their Facebook username and password, they're checking into your business, which in most cases will show up on their timeline. So the other license we offer is our security bundle. So if you're familiar with traditional UTM devices, this is your UTM license. So it covers antivirus, content filtering, application intelligence, IDP. So with the Nebula security licenses and using it's paired with our NSGs. The NSGs, all of them come with 1 year of this out of the box. So if you want to continue using these UTM functionality, you will need to buy additional licenses after the first year. So it gives you application awareness. So it lets you break down traffic and behaviors on the network by the application making them. You can also create some of your policy rules based on individual applications rather than protocols and IP addresses and ports and things like that. It gives you a number of reports on what's going on in your network, and this one that it's showing here is letting you understand your bandwidth utilization. We've got other ones here which show you your antivirus reports. So to break it down, we have Nebula Free, unlimited number of devices, unlimited number of customers and sites, zero-touch deployment, automatic firmware updates, et cetera, et cetera. Going up to the professional pack gets you all those things I talked about just a minute ago, additional log information, email alerts, additional reports, additional cloning tools, Facebook Wi-Fi, things like that. So with Professional Pack, you can buy the license either as an annual license or you can pay a one-time fee for a lifetime license. The lifetime license is essentially a seat license, so it's not tied to an individual device. So if you need to swap out an access point or upgrade the network, you just remove the old device, add in the new device. You don't have to rebuy that lifetime license. If you're using the annual license and the points expire, your Nebula installation simply falls back to the free version after a 7-day grace period, I believe. And then the security pack is an additional license. It's irregardless of whether you're using Professional Pack or not. This is just showing here the security license supports all of the NSG series security gateways. 1 year is included out of the box. On switches, our NSW series of switches all include 1 year of ProPak out of the box. There is a typo on this. Shoot, I missed that. Basically, anything GS1920 or XGS1930, those are going to be our Nebula Flex switches. The Nebula Flex switches can operate in standalone or managed through Nebula. They do not include any ProPak when you buy them. So ignore that one that says it does. I'll fix that for next month. Then on our access points, it's a little bit more confusing because we've got dedicated NAP series Nebula only access points. We have Nebula Flex, we have Nebula Flex Pro. So this is just showing here as a quick reference which models include the ProPak. So you can see the NAP series access points all include 3 years of ProPak. We've also recently launched the WAC series with new firmware that makes those Nebula Flex Pro. So those all come with 1 year of ProPak out of the box. And then our NWA 5123 ACHD and the WAC 6303D-S, those include 1 year of ProPak, but we're doing a promo for this year and this year only. So if you buy those and activate those this year, they include 3 years instead of the normal 1 year of ProPak. And then all of the 1100 and 1300 series access points don't include any of the ProPak licenses. Then you can see which models there support that Wi-Fi health report and which models support Smart Mesh. So that's pretty much it. If you'd like to, we've got a demo. Just go to nebula.zyxel.com, go to log in, and we will present you with a username and password you can use to log into a live demo site. It's up and running in a couple different hotels around the world. We can also hook you up with a 60-day demo kit. You just need to be a Zyxel reseller. You have to be part of our partner program. Then you just talk to your sales rep, and they can arrange to get you a 60-day demo kit for you to play with yourself in person. Otherwise, that is it for today's presentation. If you have any questions, send them in using the Q&A window there. One thing I want to ask from you, if you have any ideas for webinar topics or content, whether they be really big ideas or whether they be something small like what's best practices or how do I configure this type of VPN or this type of wireless network, tell your salesperson, email me, and let me know, because we're looking for your ideas. We're putting these webinars together to try to help you and benefit you, so we need your feedback on what you would like to see us doing for you, whether it be a tech talk, whether it be a full-on training, whether it be overviews. Let us know so we can put those together and create more value for you and help you sell and understand our products. Okay, I am not getting any questions today, so I'm going to go ahead and end the webinar. If you're in the middle of typing something out, just copy and paste that, and you can email me directly. My email is Sean R. Sean is spelled S-H-A-W-N-R @Zyxel.com. Okay, so Paul just sent me a question, so I'll go ahead and answer Paul's question. But anything else, go ahead and just email me directly. Paul is asking, what is the procedure for suggesting product features or enhancements? The best way to, well, the main way to do it with Nebula is when you are logged into Nebula, go down to the bottom of the page in the management interface there, and there is a link that says, I think, what does it say? It says like wish list or request a feature, or wish a feature, something like that. I'm sorry, my mind's going blank as to what the actual text is. But there is a link down there that you click, and that is for you to suggest any sort of feature enhancements you want in Nebula. And those go directly to our R&D team in Taiwan. After you submit that to them, absolutely feel free to reach out to your salesperson here, whether it's Sandy, Jacob, or Ivan, and you can push them on that if it's something that's really important. If it's something you absolutely desperately need, sooner rather than later, contact your salesperson after submitting the wish there, and let them know, and they can then relay that to myself or Try, so we can ask questions and we can forward it up the chain and maybe try to give it a little bit of priority. It always helps to know not just the feature you want, but why you want that feature. You know, is it a feature you need because you've got one customer with a really wacky request? Is it a feature that's you keep butting your head on one deployment after another, and it's really detrimental to what's going on? Is it just sort of a cool idea you have? You know, so letting us know what that feature request was you submitted, why you need it, what the application is, that then helps me or try to escalate the feature request up the chain and see if we can maybe get a little bit of priority on it. So I hope that helps. Again, anything else, just go ahead and email me directly. Thanks for joining us today. I appreciate it, guys. And again, also email me any ideas you have for upcoming webinars you'd like to see myself, Tri, or Marcus put on for you guys. We really do want to be here to help you, but we need your help and your guidance as to what it is you're looking for and what you feel would be beneficial for you. Thanks, guys.